Hello, everybody. No, this is not an April Fool's joke. This is not a joke. This is not a drill. We had another trailer. Initial response? Loved the trailer. So great. Honestly, it was quite surprising that we got another trailer, and it was a full-blown trailer as well. Usually we have to wait months and months and months for just the tiniest little hint of what's to come. And here we are, getting 2 trailers in the space of 2 weeks. It's honestly, my mind is blown. It's so exciting. Doctor Who is back, baby, and look at the attention it's getting. So let's get into this second trailer. Okay, so immediately we open with another fourth wall break. What is going on with all these fourth wall breaks that we seem to be having in episodes, in trailers? Now, we do have a bit of a mad theory about this fourth wall breaking. Now that we know the episode titles, we know that one of them is called The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and I did touch upon this in the previous video when we spoke about that particular title. But the idea that Ruby is a legend or a myth could suggest that what if the Doctor does keep breaking the fourth wall to almost narrate the legend of Ruby Sunday, as if it's a story that he actually is familiar with, and it's like a narrator telling the audience what's going to happen next, or filling in the blanks of the legend. Now, that's very unlikely. It's probably much more complicated than that, but it's just a theory. So we then have a gorgeous shot of the Doctor in that 60s Beatle outfit. I've said it many times before, I think this is my favourite of the Doctor's new wardrobe selection so far. I really love that vibe. Now, what you do notice in this clip is that there is a microphone in front of the Doctor. Now, as we see later on in the trailer, and we did see snippets of it in the previous trailer as well, there's going to be a musical number, or maybe even multiple musical numbers. We've speculated it, I don't think there's much doubt, but there's definitely going to be some sort of musical something going on here. Gonna call it right here, right now. I feel like the Doctor and Jinx Monsoon are gonna have to come face to face and have a sing/dance off to win. It sounds cheesy when you say it out loud, but it could be really dramatic. And the thing is as well is, how do you defeat a villain that wields music as a weapon? You know, you fight fire with fire. How do you destroy a musical weapon? With music. It makes a lot of sense. Now, something else that you might have noticed in this trailer, particularly with the reused footage from the previous trailer, like the Gimme the Lovin' clip, for example, is that the colours look a lot brighter, a lot more vivid than they did in the previous trailer. Now, in our previous breakdown of that trailer, we started commenting on how some shots looked quite washed out and we thought it was a stylistic choice and that maybe there was something going on. Our bad, turns out it was just an upload error. And we were reading way too much into that, and someone actually just messed up and it wasn't supposed to look like that. But obviously in this trailer, they've obviously fixed that error, and you can see that things are a lot more colourful, a lot more very vibrant, basically how it was supposed to look. So well done for not cooking it up a second time, lads. Well done. So this particular shot is quite interesting. So we have the Doctor back in Unit HQ. Now you can just see, just slightly in the background, a little bit blurred, you can see Kate stood behind him there in the background, and it seems like they're actually inside the secret vault or science dungeon or whatever it was that we saw them entering with Lenny Rush in the previous trailer. It does look like, from where Kate's standing, that this is where the Doctor is standing, the room that he's in. With Ruby, but interestingly also stood there, Carla. Carla's taking a trip to Unit. Why is Carla in Unit? That's the question really, isn't it? The Doctor having a companion's parent on their travels is not unheard of. Obviously, Jackie has taken trips in the TARDIS. You know, Sylvia and Wilf have been involved to a degree in not necessarily in the TARDIS, but, I mean, Wilf did, but have been involved. Parents are very important, especially in RTD's eras of the show. You also have Brian Williams in Stephen Moffat's episode, so the companion's parent being there isn't necessarily shocking, but the fact that Ruby seems quite integral to what's going on and everything seems to be focused around Ruby does make you question what's going on. Is it important that Carla's there, considering, you know, Ruby's history, Ruby's family, the big mystery shrouding Ruby as a character? So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Carla actually has a bigger role to play and perhaps knows more than she's letting on. Okay, next we have a shot from the Simpsons movie. No, I'm only kidding, but seriously, everyone thought it, right? Everyone thought it as soon as they saw the dome over the city or the village or whatever it is. It's the Simpsons movie, right? But, in all seriousness, How amazing did it actually look? You know, the CGI, the design of it, everything about it looks really impressive. I believe that they built a set and put a dome over it somewhere. I mean, obviously they didn't, but it looks incredible. My thoughts would be that this is from the episode Dot and Bubble. It's great now that we have, obviously they've done it on purpose, but we have the titles and now these clips, because you can start to draw connections and kind of work out what episode each clip is from. Obviously, giant bubble, or you might even want to call it a dot. I think it speaks for itself. This is definitely something to do with that episode. Now, in the breakdown of the titles, when we spoke about Dot and Bubble, we kind of theorised that this would be some sort of commentary on online behaviour, on social media. And if you do zoom in on the bubble, it doesn't look quite right. It almost looks like kind of like a fake village or something, almost like a set. When they build sets for exterior buildings, the facade of the building looks real, but then behind it it's just being held up by scaffolding. That's kind of what it makes me feel like. There also seems to be sort of like blue lines, bits of blue running between the buildings and stuff, and it feels like perhaps it is like a virtual reality that's within this bubble that maybe people can't escape from. It's definitely giving major Black Mirror vibes. So also in the previous video where we broke down the titles, we kind of theorised based on the Legend of Ruby Sunday teaser clip, that what if Ruby was in her own kind of version of the Truman Show? Now, the Truman Show literally has Truman living within this domed false life. Just saying, they're quite similar. And I'm wondering, what if this episode is more relevant than we realise to the bigger picture? You know how in Series 6, we had the Doctor going in investigating the gangers, and it just seemed like a standalone random story that they came across. But then it turned out that the flesh was actually really important and relevant to the whole arc of River Song and Melody Pond, but when you first watched those episodes, it just seemed like a standalone story. So what if actually this VR bubble episode seems like a standalone story, but then it kind of loops back and is more relevant to the mystery of who Ruby Sunday is? Also, quite interesting, Russell T Davies gave a quote back in 2007. The gist of it being that he'd been to see the Simpsons movie in 2007 when it was released, and really enjoyed it, but was very glad that he'd actually scrapped an original idea he'd had, a plot idea he'd had for Series 4, because it was really similar to what happened in the Simpsons movie. Maybe he's kind of revisited that plot now that it's been a considerable amount of time since that movie came out. Maybe he's kind of drawn some of those initial ideas into this episode. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. Okay, we have another outfit for the 15th Doctor. Honestly, I can't keep up with all these outfits. I'm loving the fact that he is changing outfits across the episodes. It's something that's bugged me for quite some time. I know someone commented, I think on social media, about how the fact that the Doctor has all these different outfits this time makes life more difficult for cosplayers and things. I would disagree, because surely if there's more outfits to choose from, it's more achievable. You know, there might be one that's harder to achieve. If you're looking to cosplay, say, 11, then you have to find like the accurate costume. With 15 having so many different costumes, there might be one that's easier to achieve, more affordable than others. So I think it's a great thing. So we've had quite a lot of shots of this particular cliff top across these trailers. Apart from this one here, the Doctor doesn't seem to be in any of them. There's a shot of Ruby kind of looking at the mysterious figure from around the TARDIS in the Christmas trailer. We've also got the shots of the dead TARDIS. I'm assuming it's dead. Whatever is happening with the TARDIS in this situation, and Ruby sitting alone, kind of with that mysterious figure seemingly stood very far behind her. It does make you worry what happened to the Doctor when they arrived on top of that cliff top. Also, the fact that he's wearing those bright colours, like that kind of air of innocence, makes me think, oh, I think something's going to happen. What if he kind of vanishes, or, you know, maybe he just fizzles out of existence or something, and the TARDIS is left there to wither because there's no one to control it, and Ruby just keeps coming back to the cliff top to kind of remember him or hope that he's going to come back, or I don't know. I'm really intrigued by what's happening here. Right, next we're going to talk about space babies. Space babies. Okay, so there's a beautiful shot of Ruby kind of gazing out of a spaceship looking down over a planet. This is a classic Doctor Who shot. We've seen it many, many times before. This particular shot definitely gave me the end of the world vibes. And what's interesting about that is this is technically, because of the Christmas special, Ruby's second episode, and in Rose's second episode that was the end of the world, and it just feels like a little bit of a callback to a similar shot and a similar vibe of the companions' first time in space, looking out over the planet below them and being kind of like, oh my god, I'm in space. Now, on the left and right of Ruby, we can see what appears to be the space babies growing in some sort of glass tank, which is quite creepy, let's be honest. Babies being grown in tubes in space. Now, we saw the reverse of this shot in the Christmas teaser, and so we know that there are even more tanks behind Ruby as well as to the sides and in front of her. Basically, there's a lot of babies seeming to be grown on this station. So then we get a shot of a whole group of space babies, and one of the babies is talking with some very subtle lip movements, probably done by CGI because babies can't actually talk. It was pretty clever actually, so points for that, well done. And the baby says, "It's you!" And I really hope you enjoyed that impression. To the Doctor, so do they already know who the Doctor is, or have they already met in that episode? Who knows? Have the babies been specifically waiting for the Doctor because they know who the Doctor is, or is this just a shot later on in the episode and they have already met previously in the story? Now, if we put all of this kind of very bizarre information together, it might seem as though maybe the babies are like super intelligent babies, and actually this is their ship. They run it, they pilot it, whatever, this is actually their ship as opposed to them being prisoners on the ship. And actually, if you look at the exterior of the ship, very, very clever by the design team, because it actually seems to be shaped like a baby rattle or toy of some sort. So again, that suggests that the space station is actually controlled by the babies themselves. And the reason that they need to be grown in jars is because there doesn't seem to be any adults about. Having said that, there is an adult cast member in this episode other than Ruby and the Doctor, obviously, because it was also announced yesterday that Golda Rochevelle will be playing a character named Jocelyn in this episode. Judging by the casting image that we got, it seems that she definitely has some sort of surveillance system going on in this space station. She's got a lot of screens which seem to be like some sort of camera system watching everything that's going on. So I think the question probably is she friend or is she foe? My instincts are saying foe. I mean, is she the one harvesting these babies to then feed to the weird Demogorgon creature? Is she performing some sort of study or experiment? Clearly these babies are more intelligent than your average baby, but what's she up to? How does she fit into all this? Is she like a Mrs. Foster kind of character? That would maybe make sense, and a bit of a callback to episode 1 of series 4. Now, Golda Rochevelle, obviously a star of Bridgerton and the Bridgerton spin-off that focuses on her character, Queen Charlotte. I have a strange theory about Bridgerton, but maybe we'll revisit that because I'm not sure if I am completely off the mark or if I'm really onto something. Eagle-eyed viewers might also have remembered that Golda Rochevelle actually, she appeared in 2 episodes of Torchwood as well, but it was a very minor role, so I don't think it's the same character making this grand return. She was literally just a doctor with about 2 lines in the episodes of Torchwood that she starred in. But it's great to see her in this episode. She's a wonderful actress, so good casting choice. Okay, then we have the iconic shot of the Doctor and Ruby walking across the zebra crossing. I mean, it's a Beatles episode. You can't not do that iconic shot, can you? Obviously, it's a nod to the Abbey Road album cover. We've definitely had promotional shots for Doctor Who in this exact style before. Next, we get a look at actress Callie Cook. Now, we saw her in the previous trailer, and we assumed she was facing off against the big space slugs, and it seems like that's what she's doing here as well. In Doctor Who magazine, the producer Phil Collinson said this about Callie. Callie is absolutely front and centre in some of the most challenging material we've ever shot. So it sounds like she's got a great deal to do and a really good role to play. Now, the hologram screens that appear in front of her face, they seem identical to the screens that we saw in the Dot and Bubble title teaser. So not too hard to jump to the conclusion that this is from the episode Dot and Bubble. And as we mentioned, it does seem that this episode seems to involve kind of the internet or virtual reality of some sort, and again, these shots seem to support that theory. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is to do with video games, which I know absolutely nothing about, so if I say something wrong or sound like an idiot saying it, my bad. But the word forward, and then there's a blue arrow that it appears in front of the slug, so that's almost certainly something like in video games where you get all your bits on the screens. A HUD, is that what it's called? Think it is. I had to ask Danny what that meant because I didn't know. But it seems like it's kind of telling the player where to go next. Perhaps it's kind of this virtual reality online meta space and it's been infected by these space slugs in some way. And again, going back to the dome that we saw earlier in the trailer, maybe that's the virtual world. that people are trapped inside. Okay, so we've got some pretty dramatic shots next of the Doctor and Ruby looking quite distressed, and it's very dramatic, and whoo, what's going on here? Now, we've kind of been discussing that the Stephen Moffat's episode Boom seems like it is quite action-packed, maybe more of a thriller kind of episode. But one thing that's clear from these shots is it's also going to be a massively powerfully emotional episode as well. I mean, just in these shots in the trailer, Ruby and the Doctor look traumatized by whatever's happening here. I really don't think we are ready for what's going to happen in this episode. People we love are going to die. Characters we love are going to die, whether that's the Doctor, whether that's Ruby. Obviously, I think it will be fixed, but I think we are going to be sent on an emotional roller coaster in this episode. I mean, look at that single tear rolling down his face. I mean, the acting is... Jinx Monsoon speaks. We've known that Jinx Monsoon is playing a character in Doctor Who for quite some time. Still, it's this unnamed, mysterious character, but we actually haven't heard this character speak until now. So she pops up from behind a piano, seemingly, and says, "You called." She looks very mad about the fact that she's been summoned for some reason. Now, Russell T Davies did tease that there would be gods involved in this season, and given how powerful this character seems to be, using music as a weapon and all that jazz, perhaps she is one of these gods. You know, her outfit, her powers, it's all very unearthly and very showy, but it just seems like there's a higher air to this character. It doesn't feel quite alien. It feels more like the Toymaker, kind of ethereal. And obviously I just said that she seems to be kind of appearing from behind a piano, but what if she's actually emerging from within the piano, as if she's been summoned from another dimension? Yeah, that's my theory. I think we saw in the previous trailer someone seemed to be like emerging from inside a drum, or was trapped inside a drum. I think perhaps she's come from a musical dimension. Oh, I'm very intrigued. So earlier we mentioned the theory that the Doctor will have to kind of sing or get musical in some way to defeat Jinx Monsoon's character, and here we see that Ruby is also holding a microphone. She looks a little bit terrified, but we saw in the Church on Ruby Road that both Ncuti and Millie can sing. They did sing to distract the Goblin King, so I would think that we're going to get another crack at singing in this episode. And you can just see that the Doctor is in the far left corner as this shot fades to black, and he's holding a guitar. And we have seen this image before, not this particular image, but we've seen a shot of the Doctor holding a guitar before. The Doctor and guitars, it's a duo we've seen before. Obviously 12. He could play a good tune on the guitar, so it would be nice to see a little nod to 12 with 15 also playing the guitar here. Can we just talk about the dialogue and, more importantly, Ncuti's talent for a second? Because there were some people who maybe questioned his ability when he was cast to carry the darker and more serious elements and tones of the Doctor. But the way he delivers this line in the trailer, he says, "I will shatter this silly little battlefield into dust. In a heartbeat, into dust." I think just from that line alone, anyone's doubts should be erased. He is more than capable of carrying these more serious tones. I think he's going to be absolutely wonderful. I mean, I got chills literally at the delivery of that line. This is then followed by the line, "I don't have a people, I don't have a home, but I have freedom." This almost feels like a kind of, we're returning to the themes of Russell T Davies's first era with 9. You know, he's like, "My planet's gone, I'm the last of the Time Lords." But what's nice is that this time around, even though we are visiting those same themes, 15 kind of seems to approach it in a lighter tone. We know that those burdens have been lifted from him, and he kind of appreciates what he does have. There's an acceptance of the cards he's been dealt, and rather than dwelling on the fact that I'm the last of the Time Lords, I have no home anymore, he's like, you know what, I don't have a people anymore, I don't have a home anymore, but you know what, I've got freedom to do what I want, to go to the places I want to. And I really like that kind of flip of the same theme, and that approaching it from this lighter tone and really showing the results of the bi-generation. Okay, next we have another shot from Boom. Now, for a while we have kind of speculated and known that this episode would involve the Doctor stepping on a landmine. But kind of since the landmine in the trailers previously looked pretty big and obvious, the question was, how the hell did you step on that landmine and not notice it? But that question has been answered because, as you see in this clip, the landmine was invisible. Of course it was, it's Doctor Who. Of course the landmine was going to be invisible. Now, obviously with that in mind, Are there more landmines, and is Ruby going to end up standing on one at some point in this episode as well? Maybe that's the moment that single tear appears, when Ruby ends up on top of one as well. All right, and here we go. This bloody shot. Okay, so some of you might remember we did an entire video about this shot because it was used in the marketing for the 60th anniversary, but it never appeared in any of the anniversary specials. And we speculated that it was actually a shot from season 1. That for some reason had been used in the 60th marketing. We got so many comments telling us that we were just overthinking it, that it was probably just a shot created for the marketing only. But here it is again! And I think we were right. This is a shot from season 1, and judging by the clothes that the Doctor is wearing, if you really look at it, I think this is from Boom. Now, we do have a bit of a dark theory about this particular shot. So what if this is what happens when the Doctor steps on the landmine? Or if the landmine goes off? He ends up in some sort of limbo, timey-wimey space situation and has to leave then Ruby to figure out what to do. Because in this clip, it looks like the Doctor's kind of waking up. That would totally be a Moffat thing to do. I could totally see him actually set the landmine off. I think a lot of people are going to go into this episode expecting it to be the Doctor steps on the landmine, it doesn't go off, but he spends the entire episode stood on it. Well, what if it does go off? What happens then? Maybe this is what happens then. The Doctor ends up in some weird limbo. Okay, next we have a lot of dancing and singing around. If there was any doubt that the Beatles episode was going to contain a full-blown musical number, I think that doubt can be put to rest, judging by these shots. We even see Ruby getting in on the action here. She's having a full-on dance going on. I think this is going to be a very fun episode. One thing we don't know is what song this is going to be. Now, obviously, your first thought would be it's going to be a Beatles song. And it has been confirmed that there is a Beatles song, Ticket to Ride, that is in the jukebox on the TARDIS. So it's definitely a contender, but other songs that are on the TARDIS jukebox are Toxic by Britney Spears, Starman by David Bowie, and Voodoo Child by Rogue Traders. Now, as cool as it would be to hear any of those songs in this episode, I think the one that will be chosen for The Devil's Chord will be more appropriate for the 60s setting and the Beatles vibe. Then we do get another full look at the Doctor in his new yellow outfit, with that ominous tree kind of bending in the background. Why does this image of the Doctor in his bright yellow coat look like one of those images that's kind of like the final image of a person before a disaster strikes or before something bad happens? I feel like something bad is going to happen on this cliff top. I have a bad feeling. And then we close with yet another fourth wall break. So just add that to the list of fourth wall breaks that we've had. And the Doctor says, and that's just the beginning. Which again plays into the theory that the Doctor is kind of telling the viewers a story. Perhaps the story of Ruby Sunday. Maybe we open Space Babies with the Doctor saying, let me tell you a story. And then we end with the ending of that story. It would certainly be a new way of doing it. This is a better way of doing the fourth wall break. Let's not have the Doctor floating in space like we had at the beginning of The Star Beast, because we all know, did not enjoy that, not a fan of that. If you're going to do fourth wall breaks, what we've been seeing here, definitely a better way of doing it. Subtle winks into the camera and make it relevant. The whole fourth wall breaking, storytelling, floating Doctor in The Star Beast was not the one. Not a fan. Sorry, can't get on board with it. But let us know your thoughts on this trailer in the comments down below. Let us know if you agree with some of our theories, if you've got other theories as well. And do check out our video breaking down each of the titles as well. And we may have given them a rating as well, just to be fun. We are ramping it up in the build-up to Season 1 airing in May. So keep your eyes peeled, I guess.